Today, we're plunging into a world where extreme wealth meets extreme secrecy. We're talking, of course, about that hugely anticipated wedding, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez
Mhm.
in Venice.
Right, the floating city.
Exactly. And our mission today really is to kind of unpack all the speculation, the guarded details.
Mhm.
We want to give you a shortcut to understanding what's being called Venice's most guarded secret.
Mhm.
We're mostly using a recent CNN report, trying to piece together what this, well, lavish multi-million dollar event actually looks like. It's supposedly happening this week. That's as of June 23rd. It sounds spectacular if anyone actually gets to see it. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the first thing that strikes me is this paradox. Huge global figures, massive event, but wrapped in just layers of secrecy.
Right.
Spokespeople are apparently tight-lipped. Guests signing NDAs, reportedly.
Yeah, non-disclosure agreements, standard for this level, maybe, but still.
But even with all that, there's just widespread speculation about, well, everything. It feels like the more they hide it, the more everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
It's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like a textbook example of, the Streisand effect.
Yeah.
When you try that hard to suppress information, especially now in the digital age, it just backfires.
Oh, so
Well, you create this vacuum, right? And the public, they're going to fill it with rumors, with speculation. It's this basic tension. The tighter the control.
the bigger the curiosity.
Exactly. And you see hints of it everywhere. Like CNN mentioned Harry's Bar, the legendary spot.
Yeah.
Waiters there are openly hoping some guests might pop in, like, George Clooney did during his wedding. Their discretion is famous, but even that quiet hope, it just shows how much buzz there is, how eager people are.
So it's this double-edged sword. Trying to control it just ramps up the public interest. Does that get even more intense when you throw Venice into the mix? I mean, it's such a public, complex city.
Oh, absolutely. Venice is, well, it's an incredible stage. Visually stunning, iconic, but logistically. And in terms of public scrutiny, it's a huge challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You're already seeing organizers dealing with the looming threat of disruptive protests. They're pushing back hard, saying their plans are, quote, respectful of the city, that they'll minimize disruption.
Right.
They even put out a statement saying rumors of taking over the city are entirely false, which, tells you something.
What does it tell you?
It tells you that even with Bezos level resources, you can't just ignore the city. You have to actively manage how people see it, deal with local concerns, especially somewhere like Venice that's so, sensitive about tourism impact.
And for that, they've brought in the experts, right?
Yeah.
This Italian duo, Lanza and Bocchino.
Yes, exactly. They handled the Clooney's wedding back in 2014, also in Venice. So they know the city, they know the ropes. Their expertise is probably, well, invaluable here.
And it seems like they're trying to work with the city too. This detail about sourcing locally.
Yeah, the sourcing some 80% of wedding provisions from local vendors. That's really interesting.
80%. That sounds like a lot.
It is. And it's smart. It's not just about pouring money into the local economy, though it does that. It's strategic.
Oh, so
Well, think about it. You commission, was it, about 200 goodie bags from Rosa Salva. That's the oldest pastry shop in Venice. You get special party favors from a Murano glass designer, Laguna B. Doing that, integrating with local businesses, showing that respect, it helps head off potential resentment. It makes everything run smoother in such a, well, delicate environment. It shows they understand how to operate at this level.
okay.
And you see the Veneto regional president, Luca Zaia, seems pretty unfazed. He's like, look, Venice handles 150,000 people a day.
Right. Perspective.
Yeah. And it's hosted huge weddings before. Clooney, obviously. Selma Hayek and Francois-Henri Pinault. Alexandra Arnault. Elton John, even. The city's handled this kind of thing.
Okay, so the stage is set. Incredibly complex stage. The logistics are being managed very carefully.
Mhm.
But who's actually going to be at this thing? The guest list is obviously top secret, but the world of the super rich tends to leave little clues, right? Breadcrumbs.
It absolutely does. You just have to know where to look. Probably a biggest clue dump came from Lauren Sanchez's bachelorette party. That was in Paris last month.
Right, I remember hearing about that.
And the guest list there was pretty public. You had Kim Kardashian, Kris Jenner, Katy Perry, Eva Longoria, A-listers.
A certain kind of profile.
Definitely. And then the Associated Press reported invites went out to people like Oprah Winfrey, Mick Jagger, even Ivanka Trump.
Wow, okay. So a mix of Media power,
Yeah.
entertainment royalty, some political connections.
Exactly. It paints a picture. And then there was that kind of funny, aside from Luca Zaya, the regional president,
What was that?
he was musing about maybe the US president attending because there's a NATO summit nearby this week. And he specifically mentioned Donald Trump. Yeah, with a bit of irony, sort of hinting at, maybe shifting priorities if he were president now. Just a little political observation mixed in.
Huh, okay. So we're basically piecing together clues like detectives in a high society mystery novel. And if we're following these clues, who might be there? The next question is kind of obvious, isn't it? What's the bride going to wear?
Ah, the dress speculation. Always.
Well, Lauren Sanchez has a pretty defined fashion sense, right? She's seen a lot in Dolce & Gabbana. Her son even walked their runway.
That's right, Nico Gonzalez. Yes, she's a regular wearer of D&G.
But then, remember the Met Gala in 2024? She wore that custom Oscar de la Renta. Very different vibe, maybe.
Very notable, a big statement piece.
So how do these little details, the bachelor party guests, fashion choices, how do they help paint a bigger picture of the event's style? What kind of wedding are we expecting?
Well, they're actually pretty crucial clues, I think. Her consistent choice of high fashion labels, especially luxury ones like D&G and Oscar de la Renta, points towards something.
Granded.
Grand how? Like a mix of established, maybe even classic elegance, but with really bold, custom made moments, very personalized. It suggests the wedding itself won't be understated. It'll likely lean into that real opulent feel, but with those unique touches.
And the guest list kind of backs that up.
Yeah, exactly. Drawing from that top tier of entertainment, media, maybe politics, it signals this isn't just a private family thing. It's a carefully curated event, a display, you could say, of influence and style.
Okay, so we can picture the guests, maybe imagine the fashion, but then you think about actually doing this in Venice, a city with canals instead of roads.
Sure.
The sheer mechanics must be mind-boggling. This next part of the deep dive, the logistics, it really sounds like a military operation.
It kind of is, yeah. I mean, just look at the water taxis. The report suggests around 30 of the city's elite water taxis, that's out of about 280 total, are thought to be reserved.
30, just for this wedding.
Apparently, yes. Reserved from June 25th through the 30th for a big wedding. That's a significant chunk, about a tenth of the high-end fleet. And it's confirmed even the gondolas are on hold. So yeah, they're mobilizing a serious amount of the city's water transport.
And what about bigger boats? Yachts?
Ah, yes. There's mention of 9 yacht ports being booked for the week. And Bezos' own yacht, the Kourou.
The massive sailing yacht, the
Yeah.
$500 million one.
That's the one, Kourou, and its support vessel, La Biona. They're already in the Adriatic. Marine traffic confirms that they're basically parked offshore, ready.
That's an incredible level of coordination just for moving people around on water. And then there's the air.
Right, the airspace. So Venice's airspace is generally closed to drones and non-authorized traffic anyway, especially over the historic center. But for this, permission has apparently been granted for private helicopters. Think security, maybe heads of state if any attend.
And getting people from the airport discreetly.
Yep. Marco Polo Airport has it covered. There's a secluded area with direct access to private water taxis, so guests can arrive, get whisked away onto the water, minimum fuss, minimum visibility.
This whole logistical setup, it's more than just convenience, isn't it? It feels like high-level security planning.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's managing privacy, managing security, managing movement in an incredibly complex environment. Every angle seems considered to minimize public interaction from arrival to getting around.
And yet, despite all this planning, all these resources, the actual date, still officially unconfirmed.
Yeah.
They're deliberately keeping everyone guessing.
Yeah.
It adds this whole other layer of intrigue, doesn't it? What's the strategy there?
Well, the reporting suggests it's about flexibility, maximum flexibility. The planners apparently secured a variety of venues over a period of days, not just one venue, one day.
Why?
So they can decide much closer to the time. Based on what? Weather and protesters. 2 big variables you can't entirely control in advance.
Okay. So it keeps their options open. It makes it harder for anyone else, media protesters, to pin down exactly when and where.
Exactly. It's a very, very clever way to maintain control over the situation right up until the last minute.
So where might it happen? What are the potential spots being talked about?
Well, one name keeps coming up, the Cini Foundation. It's on the island of San Giorgio Maggiore, right across from St. Mark's Square.
What's special about it?
It's hosted big deals before G7 events, private concerts. It has these amazing sculpted gardens and monastery, very private, very intimate setting. And interestingly, the CNN report mentioned building work being carried out in mid-June looked suspiciously like a set being built there.
Ooh, a potential clue. Okay, where else?
Well, there's the Amman Hotel right on the Grand Canal. That's where the Clooneys got married. So there's a precedent, high profile, luxurious.
Makes sense. Any others?
Another one mentioned is the Scuola Grande della Misericordia. It's this incredible 16th century armory, visually stunning, probably perfect for the ceremony itself, but maybe more vulnerable to protesters, easier to access perhaps. It highlights that trade-off they're constantly making, grandeur versus security. Oh, and one more little detail. Apparently a wedding-esque gazebo has been erected near the Excelsior Hotel out on the Venice Lido. So another potential location to keep people guessing.
This constant shifting, the uncertainty about the date, the venue, it definitely adds to the whole mystique, doesn't it? But what kind of challenge does that pose, both for the organizers trying to keep the lid on and for, well, everyone else trying to figure it out? It sounds like this elaborate game of hide and seek on the Grand Canal.
It really is a kind of cat and mouse game. And yes, it massively increases the mystique. It makes the whole thing feel even more exclusive, more desirable to catch a glimpse of. For the organizers, it's like a strategic masterpiece almost. It gives them plausible deniability, lets them pivot last minute to dodge paparazzi or protests.
And for the onlookers.
For onlookers, for the media, it's incredibly frustrating, I imagine, but it also just fuels the chase, makes the story even bigger. It turns the lead up to the wedding into this dynamic, unpredictable event itself, way before anyone says, I do.
So, okay, we've taken quite the deep dive today. We've looked at this really fascinating mix: extreme wealth, meticulous, almost military grade planning, high stakes logistics in one of the world's most unique cities, and all against this backdrop of intense public curiosity and speculation for the Bezos-Sanchez wedding.
Yeah, it's quite something. And what really stands out is this core tension. They have vast resources, huge teams, all dedicated to secrecy, to controlling every last detail. But the very act of trying so hard to keep it private, in this day and age, it almost guarantees it becomes an object of even greater fascination.
Right.
So this deep dive into their plans, it really throws a spotlight on that constant push and pull between privacy and publicity, especially when you're talking about figures of this stature in our media-saturated world. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it say about us, maybe, about our relationship with information? That the more something is hidden, the more determined we seem to be as a society to uncover it. Something to think about.